our work is really rooted in a greater premise that is not about believing in the system, it's about believing in us and using our power and every single tool available to us to literally be able to shape our communities and protect our communities by any means necessary.
So, LaTosha, you already have saved the world. And now I'm talking to you the day before you head off on another delightful bus tour for Black Voters Matter. Because as everybody knows that we have a very important election coming up in Georgia with the runoff. The strategy for a presidential election is one thing. Explain what's the strategy when it comes to invigorating the voting base for a runoff that takes place after the presidential election that everybody had to get all whipped up about.
You mean in between Christmas and New Year?
Yes, and also that too. It's also the holiday season. So
and that too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It is a heavy lift. It is a heavy lift, but the difference this year is we've got some momentum. We've got a little wind under our wings. And so because of we were able to make this momentous change in this state after 27 years. You got a little, when your team wins after 2.5 decades, you got a little momentum behind you. And so this year, I think we do have a little momentum behind us. I do also think that people really know what's at stake. Normally in Senate elections, people don't know who their senators are. I mean, at the end of the day, you can go around the country. Most folks don't know their senators. They may know one or two people, recognizable names, but it's interesting. I think it is the most unknown, powerful position in this country, right? That whole U.S. Senate piece. And so in this process, there's a couple of things that we've got to do. One, we've got to keep people engaged and not lose interest because it's been a long campaign season, right? And then two, keep people focused on, we still got work to do. So we've launched a campaign. It's called Let's Do It Again. Let's do it again, y'all. Come on. And really be able to tap into, for me, like the positive energy and the power of joy and the season. So instead of the season being a distraction, let's use the season and lean into it. And so part of what we're doing when we go out tomorrow on our, we're going to turn the bus to a big old sleigh. We are literally going and creating kind of an atmosphere around the holidays where a lot of folks are struggling. This COVID-19 has been devastated to the state of Georgia. And I know a lot of people are looking at this election cycle at, how it impacts the nation, but it's been really devastating for Georgia. And so the way that we're keeping people engaged, one, we're using this momentum, kind of creating this atmosphere of around the season and literally telling folks what's at stake so that they really do understand that this ain't about just like what political parties have power, but this really is about what kind of representation we'll have for Georgia, a state that we've had just super challenging leadership in this state, or the lack thereof for the last few years. And so a lot of it is really engaging people. It's COVID-19, so we're not gathering, you in the ATL, we live our lives outside, right? There's a concert every minute. And now you don't see that. So we're not really engaging each other the same way. We're not like in these big shopping malls the same way where some folks are, unfortunately. Let me say that some folks are, but for the most part, just this kind of interaction and an engagement. And so we've been really creative to do that so that we're really not passing on COVID, but that we're doing these caravans. So while the main Christmas parade has been canceled, we're doing our neighborhood Christmas parades. Like we're going through the neighborhoods, with the bus, with a caravan of cars. We'll stop at places, get out, wave, really, really engage folks, have loud music, so it's kind of like I'm bringing some joy and giving information to folks. So I think that's the best way for us to engage right now, to let people know that it's not over, remind them that they have power, and to really be able to create a little joy in the process while doing it.
So for those who, and I will speak to some of this in your intro, or have spoken to some of this in your intro, but for a lot of people who are listening, they may not have understood what your contribution to this presidential election was. I greatly understood what it was. And for those who may not have been aware, your creation of Black Voters Matter was so key, and not just Georgia, but Detroit, my hometown. I saw the footage when you went there, and I thought that was really, wonderful. A ton of cities across the South where you all have tried to mobilize, energize, and speak to Black voters about what's at stake and engage them in a way that I think is very unique compared to other voting drives that you've seen. Because one, you're targeting Black people,
That's right?
And so you
unapologetically
targeting Black people. But what I love about your organization, and I heard you say this before, is that it was a reason why you co-founded this Black Voters Matter as opposed to Black Votes Matter. Can you explain why it was important to make that distinction, that this is about Black voters as in Black people versus just getting the vote?
Absolutely. So Cliff Albright and I in 2016 created the organization, and we were we wanted to be very intentional about everything in its creation, including the name. And so part of over the years, what we've seen is people, when candidates are running or political parties, I call it the 3 weeks out before the election, they drop some fairy dust, a little resources, and it's supposed to round the Negroes up. And, that's it. You never see them anymore. Right. And so for us, part of, it was almost as if Black people were just being reduced to a number. Like we were just a part of a numbers game to help someone else win power. And ultimately what we wanted to do is shift the paradigm and have the focus on Black voters, not Black votes. Because as I always say, there's a whole bunch of people that care about Black votes, but don't care about Black voters. And so we wanted to start from that premise of that our concern was our people, right? And not just while we say Black voters, we mean everybody in our community, right? Whether you are registered or not. I remember going on a canvas a couple of years ago with another organization, and I'm sitting there watching them, and they're walking by people, and I'm like, well, why are you walking by people? Because they got these little pads, these with the minivan system on it, and if your name is not on the list, they're not going to talk to you. There's something just so inhumane to me about that, right? And then I remember later on, there was a brother who had a felony conviction, and they asked him if he was registered to vote, and he was like, no, I'm unable to vote, and they walked past him. I was like, wait. So you think this brother doesn't matter? Like he doesn't count? And so our premise is the exact opposite. We believe that every single human being in our community, we spend a lot of time with children. If you look us on our tours, when we're on our tours, when we see children, we take the time to go talk to children. We literally listen to them. We might ask them questions. Matter of fact, in a safe way, literally then be able to teach them some chants, vote for me until I can, literally engage them, because part of our work is really rooted in community building, that this is literally about power. This isn't just about participation. So for us, we're not reducing Black people to just a vote or a number. That wouldn't be any different than what happened to us during enslavement. But what we see is we see the power and the potential in our people. And voting is one tool, we believe, of our agency to really be able to influence who is in office that's going to make policy about us, to sometimes reduce the harm that's happening to our communities, and literally be able to put people in office that will shape and be in alignment with an agenda for us. So our work is really rooted in a greater premise that is not about believing in the system, it's about believing in us and using our power and every single tool available to us to literally be able to shape our communities and protect our communities by any means necessary.
That's something when I talk to people who are frustrated about our political system, who say, they don't vote or they don't plan on voting. I always try to sort of preach something similar. You have far more patience than I do. And I always say, this is just one part. This is just one brick. This is not
that's right,
the end all, kind of be all of the process. Nevertheless, you being on the ground, you're engaging with people who are either non-voters or just don't feel good about the system. What have you learned from what they have told you about why they just don't feel connected politically to our system?
It's so interesting. I wish, oh my God, I wish I could find this brother. It was 20 years ago. It was about 20 years ago. And part of my success, I'm full just even thinking about it. Part of my ability to be effective at organizing came from a brother that was like, I ain't damn registering. I'm not signing your paper. I'll never forget. It was about 20 years ago. And so I had my speech down. At the time, I was like, no, everybody got to vote. This is your people died for you. This is your responsibility. And I ran up on these brothers that were sitting outside. It was actually in a community in Alabama, and they were sitting outside on a car, and there was a brother who I was asking to register to vote. He was like, nah, I ain't registering because I don't believe in that system. And I was like, literally, I was like, yeah, I understand that, but we got to vote because such. And I literally couldn't break through. But then I remember he sat there and literally his engagement with me, he was absolutely brilliant. Like absolutely brilliant. And to the point where I didn't even have a comeback. Like the stuff that he was saying, like I didn't even have a comeback, and I remember him saying, when you learn, he was like, really, when you're able to listen to a brother like me, that's when you're going to know how to get somebody. That's when you're going to know how to do your work. Like, that's when you're going to know. I'll never forget. And it's almost like that brother's in the back of my head. When I'm organizing, he taught me how to organize because his operative word, which is another person taught me this a couple of years, that around the same period too. I guess I wasn't listening to folks or something, right? Because there was another woman who told me something similar, but a little bit different way. But this brother, what was the operative word is when he was like, when you learn how to listen to me. And so it was interesting. I was so busy in my early years, literally trying to force people to believe what I believe, or really trying to, I'm trying to evangelize you, right? I'm literally trying to evangelize you. I want to make you a believer, right? And so, and I remember he said, it was something about when he said, when you learn how to listen, and it cut me. It made me on the defensive. In the moment, it didn't feel good. In the moment, I was on the defensive, but it has stuck with me all of these years that he was absolutely right. Part of the reason that we weren't able to reach, and folks aren't able to reach folks in our community, because they never think that they have anything to say. They don't listen. And so part of our work, even when we're on, when we're organizing on the street, my objective is not just, okay, I got to get you to register to vote, right? That at the end of the day, if I can literally be in a space to be able to listen to you, to hear you, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to help inform me. You're going to put me on to what's happening and what people are feeling, right? That's going to help shape the dynamics. Secondly, literally, it helps me feel a sense of connection with you, and for you to feel a sense of connection with me, so that you know that I'm not just coming around because I don't care about you. I'm just coming around because I want you to vote, but that I really do believe that you have value and you have something to say and you have something that is of value. And in that process, what I've learned, when you got that kind of exchange with people, they're far more open to even listen to you. So my listening to him opens up a space for him to listen to me. And so when we're out talking to folks and they'll say, well, I don't believe in voting or XYZ, I don't even try to evangelize them. Then my next point is, tell me what it is you care about. And then normally we engage in a conversation about what they care about, and every single aspect of our lives, I can connect to politics because it's true. And so if in that listening, if I'm able to make that connection and help them see the connection, like I hear what you're saying. I hear you, brother. You're saying you're concerned about brothers being locked up. Did you know that the DA makes a choice around who gets what sentence? And he might go into like, yeah, because my boy got such and such and such. And then we're able to make the connection, because then politics becomes real, because it becomes relevant to his life. And so for me, the important piece of them, I don't think it's a use of me trying to get folks to vote just as an act, where I want them to vote because they feel a sense of their agency and their power. Like, that's what's transformative. And so as we're going out talking to folks, my goal is to really be able to transform our people, to remind them that they have power and to believe in themselves and to use every tool. But also, I'm very honest when we're talking too. So I'm not one of the ones that say you vote and the whole world gonna change, because that's not gonna happen. Or you gonna vote, you gonna get everything you want. We know that's not true, right? So we have to be honest about both the limitations of voting, but also the power of voting.